Welcome to Jen Bell Yoga. I'm Jen, and in this video, we're going to learn how to do bridge pose. Bridge pose is one of my favorite ways to stretch out the upper back and to get my hips above my heart, making it technically an inversion. Let's start with contraindications. If you have a herniated disc or several herniated discs in your cervical spine, please avoid doing bridge pose. This is contraindicated, and we don't need to make anything worse. If you need to stretch out your neck or your shoulders or your upper traps, there are other ways to do that without making your herniated discs worse. In some instances, if you have extremely high or extremely low blood pressure that is not well managed, again, bridge pose may not be the best. But for the majority of people who have high or low blood pressure that's well managed, bridge pose is typically okay to do. If you're in your third trimester of pregnancy, this may not be the most comfortable pose. It might also be very difficult to get into. If you get lightheaded or you start to pass out lying on your back, then avoid this pose entirely. Remember to check with your physician or your healthcare provider before starting any fitness routine. To do bridge pose, lie on your back, lengthen the crown of the head away, maybe tuck the chin just slightly so we get a little bit more length in the back of the neck. Tuck that tailbone under so the low back comes down to the floor, arms pressed down into the mat. On an in or an exhale, press the feet into the ground, lift the hips up coming into bridge pose. You can take a minute and walk the shoulders underneath the back. The neck is nice and relaxed and the gaze stays straight up. One thing I like to talk about or play with in my bridge pose is noticing where the weight is in your feet. You can think about actively pulling your heels towards your shoulders or actively press your legs away from the rest of your body. You can also roll outward, supinating to the outer edges of your feet. You can also think about pulling the feet outward. This is great to do with a resistance band. Or you can draw the feet in or also roll the feet in. Noticing where the weight is in your feet, and then find where center is, and then sitting there and pausing. When you're ready, lowering back down. There are a couple different approaches to bridge pose. We can articulate the spine one vertebrae at a time. So again, tucking that tailbone first, lifting the tailbone, then each vertebrae one at a time as you lift up, and then lowering down one vertebrae at a time, really thinking about engaging the core, tucking the tailbone so the low back comes down to the mat before the tailbone. Another thing we can do is be a little bit more mindless in it, but just lifting straight up and down. This is a great way to really open up and start to mobilize your major hip flexors or your psoas. Though you're not articulating the spine, it's probably safer if you have any herniated discs or any other spine ailments that can be injured when you're moving your spine through rolls. Now, let's talk about breathing. Typically, as a yoga instructor, I was taught when you lift up into bridge, you inhale. When you lower back down, you exhale. But as a group fitness instructor, I was taught exhale as you lift up because you're exerting effort, and inhale, lower down because you're releasing. Which one's right? Really, it doesn't matter. You do what works for you. I like to encourage students to breathe in whatever way feels most natural or most comfortable for them. You can also play around with it. You can maybe inhale, lift, hold on the exhale, inhale back down. You could do the reverse of that. Exhale, lift, inhale up top, exhale, lower back down. There are a variety of ways to breathe in bridge pose, and it is totally up to you. The important thing is to breathe. Moving on to arm variations. When you lift all the way up into bridge pose, if you're going to hold it here, you can maybe walk the shoulders underneath the back a little bit more and interlace the arms, pressing the arms down into the ground, continuing to lift those hips up. This is a nice stretch for the upper traps, keeping that neck nice and soft, and the gaze stays facing up the entire time in bridge pose. Make sure you don't turn your head because that can definitely cause issues in the neck. Another option is to take a supported bridge with your arms. This requires a bit of hip mobility and flexibility through your psoas, your major hip flexors. We'll walk the elbows underneath the back, hands come to the sacrum, and we can relax here. Another option to supported bridge with hands is to use a block. Your block has 3 dimensions. You have tall, medium, and short, and you can play around with this in whichever way works best for you. So to do this, we're going to lift the hips up, place the block underneath the sacrum. That's that triangle-shaped bone at the very bottom of your spine, and it's between your hip bones. And lay your hips on it. You can relax here. Let your knees fall inward and feet go wide. You can also do a 𝐶𝐸 Konasana, soles of the feet together, knees open wide. And again, remember you have those other heights with your block. And even though we might be doing this in a restorative sense, we're still making sure that we're not turning our gaze. Bridge is also a great way to get a workout in. So if you're not taking this as a restorative pose, you can take a block, place it between your legs. Think about squeezing the block together and move through bridge lifts. So you can lift up and down, you can hold, you can even pulse. Continuing with the leg workout, you can lift the hips up. I wouldn't go as high as you possibly can. You can slide the legs out and back in. You can do one leg at a time, and both of these are great for working the quads as you press your legs out and the hams as you press the legs in. And lastly, you can use a resistance band and press outward with your thighs to get an abductor workout. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, hit the like below, subscribe for more content, and hope to see you soon.